Hi there, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you how I drew these apples using ballpoint pens. And honestly, there are way more colors in these apples than you might think. Here I have already started the drawing. I'm working on the apple underneath. And I'm also adding highlights to an apple that I already drew, but later in the video I'll show you step by step how I drew the other apples. Here I'm using an acrylic marker to add the highlights. I think you could also use a gel pen for this, but I don't really like the ones that I have, so I'm using the acrylic marker instead. This one is from Ohuhu and it had dried a little bit. I actually love the effect it has on the apples. Okay, so now onto the next apple. We're going to start with a very light layer of yellow. And why didn't I start with red? I don't know. I think I just draw the colors that I see. I started with yellow and then added some green because that's what I see in the reference photo. Honestly, I mean, some artists might say it's because green is the complementary color of red, but to be honest, that's not what I really had in mind when I was doing the drawing. I was just looking at the reference and drawing the colors that I could see. And then finally, I add a light layer of red. One thing I learned from drawing this is that even though these are red apples, I didn't actually use only red. I started with the different colors that I could see in the reference and slowly built up the red. So keep in mind that you cannot go too dark in the beginning. You have to build it up layer by layer and the colors are going to mix beautifully in the end. You really have to keep your layers light because it's a ballpoint pen. You can't really fix or correct anything. Once it's down, it's down. So you really have to build those light layers to get the finish that you want. Another thing that is important when drawing something round like an apple is the direction of your lines. You don't want to make all your lines straight because it's not really going to look realistic. You want your lines to follow the curvature of the object that you're drawing. Basically, I'm trying to make my lines follow the form of the apple rather than just putting random lines across it. That helps give it more of a three-dimensional look, a realistic look, if you will. And I just keep building up the layers until I get the intensity of color that I want. It really takes a long time to achieve my desired look for my drawings. Some people would probably say that it takes too long, but I actually enjoy it. I usually draw like this while I'm watching a show on Netflix, a movie, a soccer match, whatever's going to take at least an hour or two. And time really flies when you're in the zone, you're drawing while watching your favorite series at the same time. I think it was maybe 1 a.m. when I was drawing this. I was still drawing and I didn't realize it was 1 a.m. until the show was over. So that's how much I enjoyed drawing these apples. So you also see that I have some horizontal or somewhat horizontal lines going across the other lines. I felt like just having the lines following the main direction of the apple wasn't enough to create the volume that I wanted, so I added some lines going in a different direction to make the apples feel more rounded. I don't know if I'm explaining this very well, but basically I'm trying to make my marks follow the form of the apple rather than just drawing lines in one direction. So I repeated the same process on the other apples. Here I'm adding the shadows using purple. Again, I'm just looking at the reference and trying to pick out the colors that I see rather than thinking, okay, this is a red apple, let me just use red. And later I use that same acrylic marker to add the highlights. You'll see that I'm smudging it a little bit because I don't want the highlights to be this intense. At this point, the marker wasn't really dry anymore, so I was getting the full amount of ink, and that's not the look I was going for. So I smudged it a little bit to soften the color and make the highlight look more blended, more soft. And we're going to do the same thing with the other apple. Alright, so now that I'm done drawing the apples, I'm working on the cloth around the basket. I don't really have a clip of all the work that I did on this, so here I'm just adding the final shadows to really make everything come together. And that's pretty much it. Let me know if you like the finished drawing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!